tuned. Without further ado, let us begin our session for today. For today with us, we have Madam Geetha Gopi N, who is the Director of Professional Development and Programs at the Sir Shakti Karan Trust, Cochin. Ma'am has over 30 years of experience in helping children with special needs. Ma'am has worked in international schools following an American curriculum for inclusive settings primarily for more than 15 years. She's done extensive work in curriculum development and adaptations and also promotes the best educational practices using UDL principles among the staff and parents. She has also launched the Early Academic Series, which is a teacher's kit for teaching early English language skills and basic math based on universal design of learning. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Madam Geetha. Are you with us? So before I hand over to ma'am, I would like to inform you all that the first hour would be this knowledge sharing by the speaker. Post 10 minutes of that, I will be switching the chat settings to hosts and panelists. Wishing you all a very happy learning. Over to you, Geetha.
A very warm good evening to everyone, all the participants and the panelists. And once again, good to be here on the Ability platform. So without much ado, I think I'll get into what is today's topic. I hope it's visible.
Not yet, ma'am.
Is it
Do the full screen?
Yeah. Fine.
Thank you. Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so today's topic is about how to teach time and money to children with special needs. I'm sure you've been through, a lot of you who've been attending the Ability platform, the series of workshops that Ability has been bringing to you. A lot of math related workshops have been completed, and many of you may have been part of these workshops. What we did in those workshops, just to go through a quick recap of, what happened, what we have covered so far in these math workshops, where we talked about math readiness skills or prerequisites to higher, to primary level or school level math academics. We talked about developing a number sense and how to go about doing that, the various aspects related to number sense. We also talked in detail about, arithmetic skills, that is the basic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we had also in the previous workshops talked about different kinds of strategies, activities, which would help improve the arithmetic skills in children who have academic challenges or special needs. And this today's workshop is a takeoff on those. We are going to see an application-oriented workshop, which converts into a life skill as well. So today's workshop, it's going to be about functional academics. So it is not just school-related academics, it is how to make it functional in everyday life. And two more most important parts of, functionally, functional value in everyday life is time and money. So today we are going to discuss about how to teach time and money to children who have academic challenges. We'll be talking about the prerequisite skills that are needed to teach these concepts of time and money, the various kind of challenges that children with special needs face in not only learning these skills, but also in applying them in everyday life situations. So basically, the overview of the workshop would be today on the strategies and techniques that help us teach the concept of time and money to children with special needs. So Before we get into the nitty-gritty of time and money, let's understand what are functional academics. So functional academics are academic skills which are designed or which are created in a way that it teaches skills to each student, so that they not only succeed in the classroom, but they also are able to apply these skills or use these skills in home situations or in other environments such as workplace or even in the community. So functional academics generally include skills which help a child to gain a lot of independence, pave way for better inclusion in real life situations, and to become as autonomous and as independent as possible. And primarily, functional academics includes functional literacy, which includes functional reading, writing, and then functional numeracy, which is functional math or functional arithmetic, ICT or computer skills, etc. And along with this, there are a lot of other skills also which add up to this, such as social skills, communicative skills. All these come as part of functional skills. But functional academics per se includes a big thrust is on functional literacy, functional numeracy, and functional computer application skills. These skills equip the learners with using skills practically that is needed to live, to learn, and to work successfully within the all the different environments that I mentioned: home, school, workplace, community, and so on. So when we talk about functional academics, functional reading and writing and math, what does it really focus on? It focuses on specific skills in their respective areas, in reading, in writing, etc., that can be easily applied, or that is required in everyday life. So for example, if you're talking about functional reading, you might not only teach them phonics and sight words and all that, you would also teach them to recognize, say, public signs, like signs like toilet, for example, which is in a public utility spaces. Or you would even, when you talk about functional writing, you might teach them how to write out a check, for the bank, or write a small, fill in an application form. So these are the kind of functional academic skills that we are talking about. Same goes for functional math as well. And in functional math too, very, very, as I said, very, very core concepts which are direct implication and direct utility in terms of its functional value are time and money. If you look at research studies as well, a lot of research studies do correlate, how functional math is, a large part of functional math involves time and money concepts, which helps children to live independently in the community, take care of themselves, and be independent in those, make choices, make independent choices about different things in life. So function skills really make it possible for students with disabilities to decide where they want to live, how they want to live their lives, how they to earn money, how to keep that money, spend that money, developing a kind of financial independence, financial budgeting skills. Also, when it comes to time, using their time wisely, how to start off and complete a task on time. Again, these are very, very important skills, not only in the school environment, but also when they grow up and go to a workplace, being able to complete assigned tasks or jobs on time is very important. So understanding the concept of time, being able to follow those directions, if there are instructions given, either verbal or written, being able to follow those, knowing how to read a timetable or schedule, not only again relevant in school as well as in work settings, or if they want to use public transportation, being aware of the concept of time and applying that to getting to catch the train or bus on time, etc. So all these things actually require a lot of cognitive brain functions, and there is a big link between cognitive processing, and functional math skills. And therefore, it is imperative that children with special needs be taught these skills. So when we talk about math, what are the kind of different kinds of math skills which promote math competency or make children, more fluent in their math skills? Broadly, it can be divided into the pre-computational or the school skills, so to say, which gives children a sense of a precursor to numbers. That is, they understand what are quantities such as more, less, big sizes, big, small, and so on, long, short, uh, thin, thick. These are all quantity related concepts. So even before they enter the formal world of math and numbers, children generally have to develop these things. And in regular children in the preschool age or the years, after the toddler stage, once they enter the nursery and preschool age, these things develop automatically. But with our children, we need to really focus on training them in learning these preschool concepts. And then slowly it proceeds on to early numbers, that is, being able to rote count initially and then later go on to meaningful counting. Once they get into bigger numbers, understanding place value, how numbers can be counted, not just straightforward counting, but backward counting. Also, very important thing in counting is skip counting. So, when it comes to higher level skills, skip counting again is a very useful skill to have. Uh, from these skills, they springboard into the early math skills, which is using this number sense, place value, quantifiable, knowledge about quantities, etc., which springboards them into the basic math operations. That is playing with those numbers and using them in different operations, using them to add, to subtract, to multiply, and to divide. And these we call as computational skills. So unless you have the pre-computational skills, you cannot enter the computational skills area. And once these two are in place, then you can use the application part of it, direct application using the basic operations, that is problem solving. You have word problems involving addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, which helps us to think of real life situations, and went and in real life situations, in which kind of situations what kind of basic math operations have to be used. That is, when do we use addition, when do we use subtraction, multiplication, and division, so on, to solve problems. So when and how to use it comes in problem solving. And then last but not the least, application of very, very functional oriented skills, which talks about money, and time, measurement, data. In measurement, again, you have different kinds. That is measurement of length, distance, volume or capacity, weight. There's also a lot of information measurement using data and graphing. Like, you can measure or plot progress, etc., using graphs. And so being able to read, understand, and interpret graphs. So all these come in application oriented skills. However, although we say these are four different aspects, with children with special needs, one thing we have to remember is they do not, if you teach them in a clinical setting or in a school or a classroom setting, they may not easily generalize it or apply it automatically into real life settings. So it's very, very important that even when you're in the pre-computational stage or computational or word problem stage, you have to constantly work on applications. You don't wait until they get into the time and money concept to work on application. Application has to be inbuilt right from the first day, from the word go. So even when you're talking about quantities, you may be using, learning aids and beads and, those kind of things to teach, but then also use daily objects, use them in real life situations. So if the child has to count something, not just count, the beads that you give them or the counters that you give them, but ask them to count how many shoes are on the shoe rack, or ask them to count how many family members are there, so that they can count as many dishes and place it for dinner at the dinner table. So, try and bring in application right from the pre-computational stage itself, because unless application is taught then and there, they do not, readily generalize it to real life situations. So once you've started doing that right from the pre-computational stage, by the time you come to money and time, you can easily translate that. And money and time definitely are two concepts which have to be taught as much as possible in real life as well as simulated real life situations. So when you think of, I'm sure most of you, either as parents or as professionals, have worked with children who have special needs issues. What do you think are some of the challenges faced by children with special needs in learning these functional math skills, particularly with reference to money and time, or in general math competency skills? So I would like the participants to come forth and give suggestions on what they think are and the challenges they have faced with children who have academic challenges, particularly with regard to math skills.
They say reading time.
Okay, yeah.
Understanding concepts, need for consistent repetition of concepts, division, multiplication, unable to teach and make them understand bigger number and smaller numbers, number sequencing, understanding subtraction, rounding of numbers, application of learned concept, value of money, before and after, understanding of the concept, fraction, number sense, difficulties, recognition of numbers, place value, decimals, understanding the word problems and knowing the correct sign to be used, understanding 1 hour and 30 minutes, poor perception.
Yeah. Okay. I
Odd and
think,
even numbers.
yeah. Any more?
Yeah. Time knowledge, understanding weeks of the month, recognition of currency, difficulty in understanding numbers.
I think a lot of what I had to say has already been covered. I'm just going to give a wrap up of what really are the different challenges faced by children when it comes to learning functional math skills. First and foremost to remember is when they have special needs or academic challenges, there is bound to be cognitive processing difficulties. And when we talk about cognitive processing, they could have, particularly with academics, a lot of it is visual and auditory. So they may have difficulty with these areas. So which means you have to compensate using other sensory areas. So cognitive processing can be related to perception, as somebody rightly said, especially if they are given in modalities which are not, not in the child's stronger learning mode. Poor computational skills, not being able to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Yes, that can be a hurdle. Difficulties in reasoning out. Again, somebody said, not able to understand the concept. So difficulty in logical reasoning and problem solving. So if a particular situation is given, not understanding, how to reason out and how to decide what to do, especially when it comes to word problems or life situations. Should they add, should they subtract, and so on. Difficulties in applying, that is already, people have mentioned that. Difficulties in skills relating to quantities and numbers. So all the prerequisite skills, math competency skills that we talked about, if those are itself, not acquired by children with special needs, definitely they'll have its repercussions. It will affect their learning adversely when it comes to functional math skills as well. So it is important that we teach those skills, and while we those skills have to be in place before we embark upon the functional math skills, especially with regard to time and money. So introduction to the concept of time and money. What is time? What is money? Why is it important? How does it, what are some of the things that our children need to know with regard to time and money? So how does the concept of understanding time help us or help our children? It helps in planning their days in a more efficient manner, especially when they get to adulthood, in a more structured, systematic manner, making use of their time in a optimal fashion without wasting time. Building their life around a certain structure or time bound routines. So being able to follow a schedule, being able to understand, what to do at what time of the day and get through the day and so on. Being able to start and complete tasks in a timely fashion. So if there is a half an hour allotted for a particular activity, knowing like when to start and when to stop and when to wrap up, or being able to understand that this is the amount of time I have and within that time I need to complete this. So if they've been too slow, trying to hurry up and finish it up on time, or if they've been too fast, if they realize that there's still time to go, they can relax a bit and do it slowly. So for all this, the concept of time is very important. It helps make their life more structured and more systematic. When it comes to money, why is teaching money very important? It helps understanding the value of money, the purchasing power of money, helping in understand that money can be used not only to spend and buy things, but also to save and keep for a later date. So, it involves building financial skills such as saving, striking a good balance between saving and spending, becoming more and more independent in investment related decisions. Here again, if they have, if they're very, if they have disabilities such as hearing impairment or visual and not, or, learning disability, but, IQ being within the average range, then many of them can also, become very, very independent in investment related decisions. Whereas children who have, say, intellectual disability, and so on, they may require more kind of a supportive element when it comes to investment related decisions. But at least having some concept of money does help in this. Leading an independent life in terms of, paying your own bills, taking a job, staying employed, taking your, earning an income, from a job, and using that income not only to save but also to, pay your bills, take a subscription for your internet connection and so on. Preparing themselves also for very complex math skills such as, percentages or word problems, higher order thinking skills. Percentages as in a very real life application could be if you go to a sales, if there is a sale on in a department store, going understanding that if it's 50% off, how much do they have to pay and so on. So understanding these skills with relation to how it translates into functionality in life. So teaching money, especially keeping in mind these kind of real life situations, always help. So strategies and techniques to teach, children who to acquire these functional math skills with regard to time and money. So if we are talking about time, for example, let's look at time initially. What do you think? Think about teaching time as a skill to children with special needs. What do you think are the prerequisite skills with regard to teaching time? I would like the participants to come forth, please, with suggestions.
They say that prerequisites for knowing is knowing day and night concepts, skip counting by fives. They should know morning, afternoon, evening.
Anything else?
If you could repeat the question to them, ma'am.
Yeah. with regard to teaching time as a concept to children with special needs, I would like everyone to uh, think of what do you think are the prerequisite skills that is required before you start teaching time.
Schedule chart, number skills in skip counting, counting number of blocks, number concept, time to wake up and go to bed, identification of numbers till 12, yesterday, today, and tomorrow concept, daily routine, the table of five, computational skills, big and small, hour, minutes, and seconds,
Yes, I
uh,
think, yeah,
date,
anything else?
yeah, sequencing, counting, recognition, numbers, hours of the day, days in a week, months in a year, teach counting, playtime, clock reading,
Yeah.
counting in order. Yeah.
Yes. Basically, I think the participants have covered the almost all of the gamut of skills that are required before you start teaching time. So I'll just go a wrap up for this. When you're teaching functional math skills, before we go into even time, one thing, as I said before, children need concrete experiences, which are followed by the application of these learned skills. So if the learned skills have to be taught, they have to have real life experiences given to them, or at least simulated activities given to them. And when you're teaching, give a good blend of both. You can use classroom activities as well as community related exercises so that generalization happens in a smooth manner. And teach skills which are of high utility. That's what I said. Functional utility should be looked at, and not just in their present environment, but in a possible future environment. So even if they move out from, say, school to college or workplace, what could be the possible skills? Those are the ones to focus on. And we did talk about, as prerequisites when it comes to time, the child should be able to understand the concept of time, as you all rightly said, by associating the daily activities with the time of the day, such as morning. In morning, these are the activities that we do. We wake up in the morning, brush our teeth, or have a shower, get dressed for have breakfast, get dressed for school, go to school. So those activities come with the morning. Similarly, with afternoon, evening, etc. So initially, the time concept starts with an understanding about how real certain activities of the daily routine associates with the time of the day. And then understanding time related words such as now. For example, now means something you have to do immediately. Later, that is, you have to wait for some time. Or hurry up, complete quickly. Or understanding the word wait. So these are all time related words, which again, these can be taught to children using real life situations, not only in school but also at home by parents. And they don't really need any special gadgets or anything. You can use these kind of words more and more frequently while communicating with the child. um, and get them to understand what these words mean, because they have a direct correlation with understanding the concept of time. And as somebody rightly pointed out, calendar, concept of calendar, concept of what day is today, what day was yesterday, what will it be tomorrow, the concept of how many days are there in a week, what constitutes a week, what is the weekend. Usually if you teach using the week and the weekend, children tend to associate it with activities. In the weekdays you have, say you have school, in the weekend you do not have school, so associate the weekend activities with the weekend, and so on. Months, year, being able to not only just write the date, from copy from the board onto the book, but understand what that date means, that the first part is the date and the second part is the month, the third part is the year. Or in some countries you write it differently, but whichever way you write it, understand which number represents the date, the month, and the year. So understanding these concepts, so these go a long way in by the time you come to say grade 1 and actually start teaching time, that is reading time on a clock. So usually if you look at regular education also, you use these kind of, you teach these kind of concepts right from the kindergarten stages. In fact, the daily activity part, you can start it right from the preschool age itself. And then by the time they come into KG, calendar can be slowly introduced as an everyday activity. And, by the time they finish 2 years of KG and come to grade 1 level, they will be, more equipped to understanding what is time, what is clock, and reading time on a clock. So what do we have to teach when it comes to teaching time? Uh, Reading and following schedules. And one good way of doing this is introducing, in schools all have schedules and timetables to follow. So teaching them how to read and follow the timetable, understanding what lesson comes, what is the first lesson of the day in school, what comes after that, when would lunch break be, or when will it be time to go home, and so on. Understanding schedules of TV or radio programs, even that can be used, because a lot of these children do like, they may have their favorite TV show which they like to watch, their favorite cartoon or something. So can you try and associate it with those? So have a schedule and be able to follow the schedule. If they're older, or and they need to catch a bus or catch a train, use public transportation, associate that with timings. Setting up an alarm, how to set up an alarm, either or on your little timepiece or on your mobile for waking up. So all these form part of functional skills related to time. Arriving on time for certain events, such as a doctor's appointment, or arriving on time to catch the school bus, arriving on time to work, to attend parties, and so on. So both date and time, um, or arriving on time so that you can catch a bus or train at the right time. So basically keeping up an appointment and being at a designated place on time. That again can be woven in with the most frequently done activities in the day. Read the time. Now, this is what most of us relate to when we talk about teaching time. Read time on an analog clock and digital clock, correct to the hour, initially hour, then go into half hour, and then correct to 5 minutes. So being able to read time both on analog and digital clocks. Understand the concept of elapsed time. Now, this is a very, very important concept. It is also a very, very difficult concept to teach. Elapsed time means understanding how much time has passed, or what will the time be after this much amount of time has passed. This is very important in the sense that, for example, if you say, I've set work for, as we start this particular activity at 10 o'clock. And half an hour later, you have half an hour's time or 30 minutes time to complete this task. You need to stop after that. So understanding that half an hour, this much amount of time, is this much duration is half an hour or 30 minutes is very difficult. So that is the concept of elapsed time. So after 30 minutes, what would the time be? So when do you have to stop? So all these things have to be built in. Not every child with special needs may understand this concept of elapsed time, but for those who are able to, don't stop with just reading time. If they've learned how to read time on the clock, the next thing to go to is to teach them the concept of elapsed time, because this is also an important skill to understand. In a very real life situation, suppose you're at work and you finish work at 5 and you have a bus to catch at 5:30 or 5:45. You need to know when to stop work so that you can get to the bus stop on time, or the train station on time. So this is very, very important, understanding elapsed time. Again, as I said, very difficult skill to teach, and with especially with certain children who have greater academic challenges, this may not be possible. But for all the kids who, who do master reading time on a clock well, do move on to elapsed time and teach elapsed time as well. How to teach? Basically introduce the clock to them, introduce the 12 numbers, the two hands of the clock. Initially start with just the hour and minute hand, and once the child is comfortable with that, you can introduce the second hands as well. You can also have the minutes of the marked alongside the 1 to 12 numbers, so that initially they can visually see and just read off, and then slowly you can fade them out once they start learning. Skip counting by fives. Learning to skip count by fives is very important if they have to read to the correct to 5 minutes. So teach them. That can also be taught as part of recitation. And recognize that the modern clocks or the digital clocks may not have numbers in the sense like they don't have a face and hands, but they just show digital time. So it is very important because in a lot of places now you see the digital clocks and not necessarily the analog ones. So when you're teaching children to read time, try and connect the two. Teach both side by side. And both, you can teach the clock and then go on to the digital time, give the digital time, and then ask them to show it on the analog clock. So doing both ways is important so that they learn both ways. With some children, again, as I said, it depends from child to child. With most children, you can do both, but with some children, if they find the analog clock too difficult, you can just stick to reading digital clocks. So some of the sample worksheets you can use. The best thing is, as I said, use concrete examples. So the children can make their own clocks, or you can use hands-on teaching clocks, where you can actually manipulate the hour and minute hands. So what I've shown in the worksheets can also be done in a hands-on activity. So write the time. Basically, as a teacher or the parent can show the time on the analog clock. They have to read the time, both the hour and minute hand, and write it in the digital format. It can be vice versa also. You can give the digital time, and then they can hold their manipulative clocks and show move the hands so that they show the time using they change the hands to match with the digital time you've shown. So as I said, do it both ways. You can also have worksheets where they have to match up. So initially start with matching up because that becomes easier, and then move on to doing it either way, showing the analog and writing the digital, or the opposite, showing the digital and drawing the hands of the clock, or having a manipulative clock and actually showing it. In some curricula, they also use the language associated with this, such as 3 o'clock, the wordings, so time can be represented not only digitally or on an analog clock, but also through words. So, o'clock, quarter past, half past, quarter to, all these, in some countries, this is very commonly used. So it is, you may have to teach this. Again, I usually keep, my experience has been children find it very, very difficult to associate with these word concepts. So o'clock, half past, generally they catch on pretty easily, and that can be taught when you're teaching reading time by the hour and half hour. They kind of understand, okay, half the circle, if it has gone, it says half past. Quarter past is slightly more difficult, but even that kind of quarter to is again a very difficult concept to teach. So unless it's absolutely necessary or it is used in your community or in the child's environment a lot, I normally skip that part. If the child is living in an environment where this language is really used, then I try and introduce the language as well while I'm teaching this. But otherwise, I usually skip that part, and then I move into, I just teach analog and digital, and then go into elapsed time, because elapsed time, I think, is, it has more relevance in real life situation. So again, as I said, depending on the children, you may have to modify what exactly you're teaching. These are the different kinds of skills that are involved. Every kid may reach certain levels of these. Not all kids would be able to acquire all. So again, as I said, not only teaching reading time on using a clock, but also teaching AM and PM. So again, once they've learned how to read an analog or digital clock, they need to understand, whether it is AM or PM. So how does that happen? Again, try and associate it with everyday activities. You can get worksheets like these, but you can also use, you can ask them to make a diary of the events that they do through the day, and then ask them to write the times that they do it, and then add whether it is AM or PM. So again, use everyday activities as much as possible that they're familiar with to teach these concepts. So again, these are different kinds of worksheets which help you to understand. On the left hand side, you will see that the AM PM part is there, the analog to digital or digital to analog, both parts are there, and the picture of the night and the day, the sun and the moon, kind of gives them an idea whether it is AM or PM. On the right hand side, you will see a worksheet on elapsed time, and this is exactly how we do it. Starting time. So you can give some real situation to that. Say a football match or your favorite cartoon show starts at this time, it stops at this time. So what is the elapsed time? How long have you watched that cartoon show, or how long is the football match? So associated with activities when you're teaching elapsed time. Or you can say you need to start this particular activity. Say you're doing a puzzle activity. Start time is this, finish time is this. Or your PE lesson. Start time is this, finish time is this. So how much time have you spent on doing the puzzle? Or how much time have you spent on doing the doing games in the PE lesson? So that's teachers elapsed time. And as I said, for children who have learned how to read the clock, and if they're capable, you can move them on to elapsed time, because this actually helps. So some of the sample hands-on concrete activities you can do is, again, not just use worksheets, but use real, hands-on activities, because most of our children learn very well through multisensory activities. So you can use activities such as, matching an analog. You can make different cards, or you can even purchase these kind of time cards where the digital clock and the analog clock is there, and they have to match it up. In the middle, you see how a clock has been made by children with two paper plates. You've superimposed two paper plates, and by cutting flaps around the numbers, you can even put if you look at the middle one carefully, if you lift the flap that you've cut, you can see the minutes. So if the child doesn't know how to read it, at least by lifting and looking, the child can learn how to read correct to 5 minutes, and slowly you can fade that away. So these kind of teaching aids really help. You can also give different pictures of activities through the day, and then they can sort it into whether they do it in the evening, night, morning, or afternoon. So again, all these kind of hands-on multisensorial activities help retain the interest in the children and helps them understand a lot about the concept of time. Again, different things here. If you look at the left-hand side, it's a jigsaw puzzle, which is connecting the wordings of the time with the analog clock as well as the digital clock. So, they have to match up the jigsaw puzzle so that all of them are saying the same time. You can also get children to make, and I've done a lot of these activities, and they really work very well. And you don't have to do with them in one session. You can build these books up, my time book, or a little book that the children can prepare on the different activities they do. So either they can draw a picture, or they can paste a picture of the activities they do, and then they can write what activity it is. For example, in the in the picture that you see, you've seen that the child is woken up and he's making the bed. And, the sentence is there, I wake up at, and the time is written in, the child has to write the time in digital format and make the hands of the clock in the analog clock. So, and make up a book like this. Different sheets can be made up, and it can be done over a period of time. It doesn't have to be done in one session or a few sessions. The child can make different kinds of, and you can even add on days, weeks, and all to this. For example, if it is, say, a music lesson, which may not be happening every day, you can say, I have my music lesson at this time and on this day. So add on these concepts, and they can have their own time-related books, which they can later read out to, family members. Or you can even have a readout session, kind of a show and tell session, where every child can, come up with the activities they do relate and the times that they do it in. So, think in a wide ranging manner, bringing in your literacy skills, also the reading, writing, art skills also um, into teaching that concept of time. The one on the right hand side is, the most commonly and most famously used teaching clock, which, when you move the hands, you have the big numbers, the numbers 1 to 12, and then on the outer circumference you have the minutes written in small. So initially you can do that. Later on you can hide the minutes once they get familiar with skip counting by fives, and they are able to, read without seeing the minutes on the outer circle. So again, using these kind of aids actually help. And remember, as much of hands-on experiences, concrete experiences help our children rather than doing them in worksheets. You can also create worksheets. It's always printing out worksheets. It's very cumbersome. You get these rubber stamp clocks, which you can just, either self-inking or using a stamp pad. You can stamp analog clocks into plain white papers, where, you can give as much practice as you want for them to draw hands on, or, write digital time and so on. So creating time worksheets, you don't necessarily have to print them out. Just having a rubber stamp clock is good enough. So different sample activities. You can also have games. Again, as I said, using time in different ways or in different activities helps generalization. So you can have a time-related board games available. On the right-hand side, you see a game which says start. The child, the player starts, and there are rules given. The player starts at 9 a.m., 9 in the morning. And it's a dice game. They throw the dice. If it says 3, they have to jump 3, and there are instructions written there. So 9, if you say 3, it says plus 15 minutes. So 9 and 15 more minutes, what would the time be? So 9:15, they have to set their time. They'll all have little clocks, so they have to set their time. While playing this game, again, turn taking, all this is involved. After playing, and the winner who gets to 3 p.m., the earliest, the first one to get to 3 p.m. ends up being the winner of the game. So you can use, board games like this, which again helps keep their interest into games like this. And it can also be used at home, like, all the family members can sit around and play games like this. Calendar, again, calendar, using hands-on calendar, where, each of those dates and the days, the year can be taken out and fixed. Again, helps. You can help them build the calendar as they go along. Most of the countries in the KG, grade 1, grade 2 years, every day there'll be a morning circle routine where they start off with the calendar. And usually these calendars do have these, either they use those flashcards, where every day they keep putting, and you can associate the calendar not only with days, months, and so on, and what comes, yesterday, today, tomorrow concept. You can also bring in your weather concept. Again, that is relating to time. So which months what kind of weather do you have, what are the seasons, and so on. So all this translates into understanding and having a very functional functional concept of time as we use it, as we see it, as we experience it in real life. Visual schedules. Again, our children do not just understand schedules. If you just say, the first period, second period, this lesson, and so on. So you can have visual schedules like this, where the time is given, digital as well as analog time. If you look at the far right, you will see the digital time is given, the analog time is given, and the lesson that they're going to have. So 8:15 is the reading lesson, for example. So, being able to read those and in reading a schedule, all this can be done as part of your everyday school program. Have a schedule for the day. And after each period is over, what I usually do is, I turn over, for example, 8:15 is reading. After reading is over, I turn over the reading part. So they know that's finished. It's the next lesson coming. So this also helps children to understand how long they have to wait for their favorite lesson or for their recess or for the gym. Many kids are very interested in music lessons or gym lessons, which are non-academic. And many a time they know that it's on that day, but they do not know when it's coming. So they, especially younger children, they'll keep asking, when is gym time going to be? When is it going to be music time? So rather than having to always answer, if they have a visual schedule like this, they get to know when they're nearing the gym lesson or when they're getting to the music lesson. So again, it helps them to understand, wait, instead of keeping on asking, when is this lesson going? It helps them to predict what are the things that are going to come. So helping to read, understand, and follow a schedule, that really helps. A lot of times I also ask parents to set up these kind of schedules. It really helps with children who have even, very smart, high IQ children who have, say, ADHD. They have problems with time management and so on. So for such children also, these kind of schedules really help, because it is easier when it's visual in front of them to actually follow a schedule. It gives them more structure to their day's routine. So using visual schedules really help. Okay, now coming to, I've talked in length about time, coming to strategies and techniques to teach the concept of money. But before we go on to money, I'd like the participants to tell me, what do you think are the prerequisites for teaching money?
For teaching money, the prerequisites they say are recognition of currency, I think, reading numbers, denominations, skip counting, addition and subtraction, knowing the numbers, coins, awareness through demonstration, counting, value of money, teaching +1, +10, -1, -10, identifying coins and rupees, recognition of notes and coins, concept of money, how do you exchange that for goods, least coin and highest, counting rupees, identification of coins and notes, very similar, recognize use of money, transaction of buying and selling, identification of coins, paper bills, purchasing, money used in different countries.
Yes, I think by and large, a lot of these have already been mentioned by the participants. Yes, as prerequisite skills, as you all rightly said, they need to be able to understand what are metal coins and what are paper currencies. They need to be able to identify and sort out coins according to their denomination or value. So identify and name different denominations of currency notes as well as coins. Be able to, rank coins, or be able to understand which value of the coin or the currency is greater and lesser. For example, understanding that, 10 rupees is greater than 1 rupee, but say, 100 rupees is 10 rupees is lesser than 100 rupees, and so on. So being able to grade the coins and currencies in terms of its value, understanding the utility of money, that it is used to buy things. Also understanding that if you have a certain amount of money, you can maybe buy only certain things. So understanding that, for example, if you're buying a pencil, you need this much amount of money. But if you're buying a much bigger, a more expensive thing, you need a lot more money. So understanding that kind of a thing, that not the transaction value of money for different kinds of goods is different. Then, as everybody rightly said, add, subtract, skip, count, multiply, and divide using money. Yes, so basically all the number sense and the basic operations comes into play when you're trying to teach them money. So again, here the good thing is, say, if you teach number sense, if you've taught the children numbers 1 to 10, 1 to 20, or 1 to 100, whatever, try and introduce the same currency denomination identification and sorting there itself. Because if they already know those numbers, say they recognize the number 20 or 50 or 10 or 100. If you have currency notes that relate to that, or you have coins which relate to to the number that is being taught in the classroom as part of numbers, try and introduce those, at least identification of those notes and coins at that time itself, because then that is a real practical application of reading that number in a on the currency note or on the coins. So again, a very good life skill, because you're not only teaching number sense, but you're translating it into a functional skill. And then later on, when they come into addition, or when they start addition, once you teach them even single digit addition, you can start single digit addition with money. You can give them two objects with price tags. For example, if you're doing even addition within 10 or 9, say 5 plus 3 or 6 plus 2, you can give two objects, say 6 rupees and 2 rupees, and tell them if you want to buy both, then you need to add, and then get them to add that and say how many rupees it is. So use, as you're teaching them these basic operations, bring in the money utility aspect also into it, and do activities that correlate. So basically do corresponding activities relating to money as you're doing different kinds of number sense. So if you're teaching skip counting by tens, you can also use, give a stack of 10 rupee notes and ask them to count by tens and tell how many rupees does it make. So all this actually helps in reducing the generalization issue that we see with children with special needs. And when you're introducing each basic operation of addition and then subtraction, when you do addition with money. When you do subtraction, once they learn the subtraction, you do subtraction with money. Same with skip counting. You do skip counting with money, multiplication using money, division using money. Do all these aspects. Again, as I said, use money in all these situations when you're teaching all these skills. This will be probably, once they've learned the basic operations, as an application part, you can introduce the money element into those basic operations. So it will be teaching them a very functional skill, and try to do it as close to real life situation as possible. So you can have, I have done things like, where I have a little table set up like a shop thing. Different objects would be there with different price tags, and then that is used to understand, to try, to use those in basic operations. Also, to understand whether there is enough money to buy something. For example, if a child has only 10 rupees with him or her, and the toy that they're choosing, or from the shop that I've put forth, the toy is, say, 20 rupees. So he doesn't have, so to realize that this is only 10, whereas the toy costs 20 rupees. So it is not enough money. So he needs to get more money to buy that particular toy. So understanding even those kind of things, whether it is enough money, whether there is not enough money, or if there is more money, then you need to get some change. If the thing costs 20 rupees and you've given a 50 rupee note, you need to get back change understanding that concept, all this requires skills. With a lot of money skills, with children who are able to do, finger math or, paper pencil math, that's fine. But when it comes to money, with a lot of our special needs children, sometimes handling so many procedures becomes very overwhelming for them. And therefore, when it comes to money, I usually prefer if they use, if they're able to do it, otherwise, that's fine. But otherwise, I encourage them to use the calculator when it comes to transacting money. So if you have to add up, you can give them a shopping bill, for example, ask them to add up all the things that they've bought, the cost of all the things that they bought, and tell me what is the total amount that needs to be paid. Again, they can use a calculator. So being able to use a calculator with regard to money, that is also a very useful skill that needs to be taught. Also understanding exchange value of money. Sometimes if it's say 50 rupees, the child may not have 50 rupee note. So understanding how you can make up 50 rupee note using other currency denominations. So you can use a 20 rupee note, another 20 rupee note, and a 10 rupee note and make a 50, or use 5 10 rupee notes. So different ways of making that 50. So different exchange currencies that make up a certain amount, that also needs to be. The big thing here is use the coins or the notes that are most frequently used uh, to start with, and then go on to bigger denominations, which probably are used to buy much higher things, which the child may not be buying at that age until they are adults. So whenever you're using money, for example, when I talk of the Indian context, 1 and 2 rupees are used very rarely. There are very hardly many things that are available for 1 rupee or 2 rupees. Most of them, are into 5 10 or above. So start with the ones that say 10 rupee initially, because that may be the lowest amount that is used most frequently. So start with that first, and then go on to the ones which are less frequently. So maybe a 500 rupee note will be the last one that you would teach. So start with the most frequently used one, because it helps understand the process of transaction much easier. So what do we have to teach when it comes to money? Saving money for a purchase. So for example, they have a piggy bank. Now again, giving a piggy bank, saving money, putting in their pocket money to save up for something big to buy at say a festival time, all this helps. So saving money for a purchase. So you may not have enough money, but you can build it up. You can save money to build up a certain amount for a purchase, even if it's a small toy. That kind of a concept can be built right from childhood itself, so that when they get older and become adults, they realize that saving money can help them buy bigger things. Giving an advocate or the right amount of money for a purchase. So checking the quantity bought, counting the change, seeing whether what the change they got is okay or not. Select an item and compare the prices. So if they have to buy a pen, for example, there may be several pens in the department store. So, some pens may be very expensive, some may be very cheap, some may be somewhere in the middle. See what they can afford to buy versus what they would like to buy. So making those, independent choices of how to spend their money wisely. That really helps. Save money in a bank account. Being able to transact money on a digital mode, especially nowadays with digital transactions being on the rise. Using say Google Pay or using debit card, credit cards, being able to use an ATM machine to withdraw money or a CDM machine to deposit money, all this helps. So being able to operate these kind of digital transactions, how to go about doing it, all these can be taught to children. And in fact, if they're not handling direct money, they're doing mostly through digital modes, it's kind of safer, because there are less chances of error. happening. And even if there's an error, it can be tracked easily as well. So, digital transactions is not just good for kids, even for us, it has become very convenient to use, a digital mode of payment. So, in the modern times, especially, being able to teach these kind of skills to children with special needs has become very imperative. So how do we go about teaching this? As I said earlier, when you're teaching number skills, while you're teaching the basic operations of addition, subtraction, and so on, introduce the money aspect also. Once they've mastered the number skills, introduce the money concept as an application part of it. Similarly, with when you're teaching the basic operations, teach them how to add. Once they've learned how to add, the application can be used with money, or with even with other life situations, but especially introduce a money element also right then and there. So you do not have to wait until the child is entered the upper primary or the pre-vocational or vocational stage to introduce money. You can start it right then and there while you're teaching concurrent related prerequisite math skills. Discuss and provide experience in using money. So when you take them shopping, have them understand that you can pay money. One of the things I do is when children even come to my clinic for remedial sessions, I get the parents to give their, when they have to pay for the services, I ask the parent to give the child the money. So they give me the money, and then the receipt is written to them and it's handed out. Or if they've given me more money, I explained to them that they have to get some money back, and then they given the money back, and using that as a learning situation, like how much money should come back as the child, if the child is at that level, or if they're much younger, at least they learn that when you get services, you pay for the services. When you pay for the services, you can get a bill to say that you paid so much. So all these skills can be do it as much as possible in daily life situations. Start with teaching the denominations and exchanges, as I said, that are more currently in use. So if the lower denomination coins or the lower denomination currency notes are not having a lot of purchasing value, it's better not to stress a lot on teaching those. So stress on the the denominations that have a purchase value in the current environment. And then, most often used denominations should be started off with first, and then you can move on to denominations that are not used more frequently. Match the currency to price tags of products that are available in the store and pay accordingly. So start with one product and paying for one product, and then you can go on to say if you want to buy two products or three products, or if you want to buy, say, a list of items by going to the supermarket. So all this slowly, step by step, you can introduce, you can start with one and then move on to two, and so on, multiple products. So go in a very, very step by step manner. Simulated shop, as I already mentioned when I was talking about teaching money, do it in real life situation as much as possible. You can also set up simulated shop situations in the classroom where children can take turns at being a customer and a shopkeeper. So again, in an inclusive classroom, you can have the more able kids be the shopkeeper initially, and these children with special needs can be a customer. And slowly, after they master the skills, they can take turns. The other, the regular child can be the customer, and they can give you the shopkeeper. So you can use real life situations like this. Buying food from the school canteen or from the store or supermarket. All these real life situations can be used. Preparing a budget. This is, again, financial planning is a skill that can be taught to a lot of children, especially the ones who have the higher cognitive skills. If you're planning for a trip, if you're going on a travel, or if you're going to do a class project where you have to buy X number of things, you're going to make a salad in the class, and you need to buy these. So make a list of the things that the project requires, how much it will cost, what is the amount of total money needed for the project. And then if there are 10 kids in a group who are going to do that project, how and they say they are going to use 2,000 rupees. So 2,000 divided by 10, how much money should each child pitch in for the project? So all these things can be done. It can also be in a real life situation where a group of friends can go to a restaurant. They can order a food, share the food, and then the total bill has to be divided among all the group of friends who came. So use real life situations like these where they need to understand how to prepare a budget, how to divide money, how to contribute money into a group, and so on. Again, this helps, makes them more financially prudent when they become adults. Also, they learn how to spend within their means, not to overspend or not to underspend. So to really truly understand the value of money and where money has to be used wisely instead of become over spending it on things that are not necessary. So all these things really help. And you can use in a classroom, in a household, you can use those real life things where to prepare a budget and say, okay, this much amount can be set aside for entertainment. This much amount has to be set aside for paying all the bills and so on. So all these things can be taught to children. And these can be closely linked with, reading, writing skills as well. Using a currency-based token economy system. Again, when we talk about behavior management in classrooms, we give points, stars, we give tokens, etc. These can be exchanged for money. Again, I usually tell the parents also, especially once a child starts learning about money, you can say, okay, if the child has acquired, say 100 points, then the child gets, say, 100 rupees or whatever. You can set a certain target as money, and that can be put into their piggy bank. So the number of points they score for their positive behavior or their positive performance in the classroom or in the household can be exchanged for money. And you can set a certain target, like 10 points equals 10 rupees, or 10 points equals 100 rupees, or whatever. So the child will also have an incentive and motivation to gain those points and produce more positive behavior, because that can be exchanged for money. And that can further be taken into, okay, you don't get the money and spend it immediately. You can save it, and you can save it for a later time to maybe buy or to maybe fund your own trip to the mall, or fund your own to buy a toy or buy a book that you want for yourself, something like that. So again, giving a sense of self pride, self esteem about earning money, keeping it, saving it, and spending it wisely. All these things can be brought together when when you do activities like this and use them in teaching the concept of money. Again, sample worksheets, very similar to what we had in time. You can have the different kinds of counting coins and bills. On the left, you see American money. So depending on whichever country you're coming from, what currency you use in your country, or whichever country the child is in, whatever environment the child is in, and whatever currency they are using, use those worksheets. So if the child is residing in India, you can use rupees and coin paise worksheets. If they're residing in some other country, you can get worksheets designed for that currency. So you can have different kinds of how much do they add up to. You can have give different price tags on objects. Just like I said, setting up a simulated thing, the same thing is converted into a worksheet. You have different objects with price tags, and then they have to pay money accordingly. So, use different kinds of currency for that. Adding, different kinds of, if there's a list of objects that they have to buy, so how much will the total come up to? So be using addition in that. You can also have multiplication related things. For example, the rate of each price tag can be given for each packet, and say you buy 3 packets of these. So what would be the amount? 5 packets of these, or 2 packets of something else. So where they have to multiply according to the number of packets that they're buying with the rate per item, and then calculate. So again, all these things, you can create worksheets. These are sample worksheets that has been created for these kind of activities. You can use that and, build up money skills, different kinds of skills associated with money. Again, here, same thing, how you can match different kinds of money, how money can be made in different ways. So if it's 20 rupees, 20 rupees can be represented as one currency note, but 20 rupees can also be with, say, 4 5 rupee coins, or 2 10 rupee coins, or 2 10 rupee notes. So, being able to match this. You can also give worksheets where balance or transactional exchanges take place. So the price of the item, the amount you paid to the shopkeeper. So what is the change you need to get? So again, using subtraction. Again, if the child is not able to do these operations themselves, or to ease in, to make them understand what operation that needs to be done and to get it done quickly, you can always use a calculator. Because nowadays, in most shopping situations, in most real life situations, as adults, we all tend to use calculators. So, it is perfectly okay to use calculator and get them to understand. The important thing is they need to understand what basic operation is used in what situation. So if you paid the shopkeeper more than what is required, then you need to subtract to get the change back. Or if you have pay, if so, those are the kind of things that they need to understand. If you bought more than one thing, then the amount you have to give has to be totaled up, so it has to be added up. So knowing what operation to use in what situation, that is more important. So stress on that when you're teaching. Similar worksheets, and then you can give, certain currency and coins. This is the amount of money you have. Find out how much money you have and whether that money is enough to purchase this particular object or not. Or if it is not enough, then how much more do you need to be able to purchase that object? Again, these are real life situations where you can actually do it, and it's best, these are worksheets of course, but you can do it in real life situation where the money is actually put in front of them and they are handing out the money. So as I said, setting up shops, you can also have bake sales, and these are things we've done in school where we have little bake sales associated with our activities, and that is used as good money learning experiences. Games such as Monopoly, where a lot of buying, selling transactions are involved using currencies, can be done. Again, that helps to understand the concept of money. So basically, we have gone through a lot of these things. I'll just go with that. Brings us to almost an end of this workshop. I'd just like to add 2 case study things. One is Sarah is able to identify currency notes and coins. However, she finds it difficult to transact money. So how can we teach her the concept of exchange of money? Participants? Participants, can you please give suggestions on how do you think we can help her to transact, help her understand the concept of exchange of money?
They say use calculator, help set up a shop, use manipulative, have a role play, hands-on experience through picture cards.
Yes. Basically, yes. Use as much of life experiences as possible. So, have a shopping-like situation, and where the child understands. You can give the object and give the currency notes and ask the child to read what is the price tag, and then hand out the right amount of currency notes or coins or whatever that relates to the price tag. And remember, a lot of repetition is required. So, use different kinds of objects with different kinds of price tags, so that it helps the child to understand that, how different ways of, different objects cost differently, and different kinds of money combinations have to be used to purchase it. Case study 2, this is regarding time. Rohit is able to read time on an analog clock by the hour. So how can we teach him to read time by 5 minutes? Correct to 5.
5 times table.
Okay.
Teaching skip counting. Count by 5. By playing skip counting games.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we can teach skip counting and all that, but in case the children are not able to, be very fluent in that, remember one of the teaching clocks that I showed you, where you can, you have the outer circle with the minutes marked in. You can start off with that, or you have flaps where you can reverse the flap and see what minute it is. So use those kind of teaching aids. And again, as I said, use several repetitions every day. You might be needing to do these kind of things so that they're able to, and use some, sometimes it's good to use old clocks, old clocks which have gone out of, which aren't working anymore. We can use that to manipulate because they look closest to real clocks. So use that as well. Okay, so that comes to a wrap up of today's workshop. It has been an extensive one. But the key thing is, there are skill specific resources required and real life experience required if you have to teach life skill oriented functional math skills. And if they have to learn it through application in real life situations. So, as close to real life is what is important. And we have seen how time and money are intertwined in our daily lives, and the different kinds of things that are related to time and money that we have to follow throughout life. So the importance of teaching these concepts to children with special needs is very, very crucial. And then we've also seen how the other skills that contribute to money and time, that is numbers, number sense, computational skills, cognitive processing skills, all these affect learning of time and money. So therefore, when the children are at that age, remember it is important to work on those, the the prerequisite skills that come into time and money thoroughly, because if they don't have that, if they're weak in that, that will definitely affect them learning these very important functional math skills. So, teaching all these things in a holistic manner is very, very important if they have to become math competent in a real life situation. So with that, we end today's workshop, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much, Madam Geetha, for a very informative workshop. I'm sure the participants have learned a lot of strategies that they can apply to teach children with special needs the concept of time and money. So moving on ahead, remember when I was doing the opening, I had mentioned to you that Ability has launched something exciting. So as we've all seen, the important role of parents in the life of children. So research also shows that as parents become more involved and empowered in the special education process, the outcomes for students definitely improve. And in that regard, one of the most effective things that we can do as a community is to help parents become aware and also engaged in the child's progress. Because a parent who understands how to help a child can make a huge difference to the progress a child makes. So I'll be launching a few polls for which I need to understand from your end a few things. So I'm launching my poll 1. You'll see the question on your screen. The question is, how many parents do you think are aware of the challenges faced by their children in academics? Greater than 75%, 26 to 75%, or lesser than 25%? How many parents do you think are aware of the challenges faced by their children in academics? Wonderful. I see most of you pouring in your answers. I'll wait for a moment till the others still put in. As teachers, as educators, we might be encountering a lot of parents in our day-to-day life. How many do you think are aware of the challenges that children face in their academics? Okay, wonderful. Most of you answered, waiting for a few of you who are still answering. It is seen on your screen. I'm ending the poll so that we could move on to the next one. So I'm going to share the results with you on the screen. You could see that you feel, most of you say that around 26 to 75% of parents are actually aware of the challenges that their child must be facing. Moving on to the next question, I'm launching poll 2 on your screens. How important do you think it is to raise awareness among parents about the challenges that the child might be going through? Very important, important, not important. Okay, most of you are answering. Wonderful. How important do you think it is to raise awareness among parents? Very important, important, not important. Fantastic. Most of you say that it is very important to raise awareness among parents. I'm showing you the results that most of you said that it's extremely and very important that parents are aware of what challenges a child could be going through. So coming to the last question that I'll be launching now. The question comes, do you want to raise awareness in your parent community as to how you could better support parents to help them understand what their child is going through? I see most of you pouring in your answers and being excited to raise awareness in the community. Fantastic. We'll wait for a couple of moments. Yes. Great. So most of you have poured in your answers and majority of you say that, yes, you would love to raise awareness in your community. And in that regard, we have brought something to you so that you can also create awareness in your communities. So these were the results that most of you had said that, yes, you want to be a part of this awareness. Moving on. So Ability has launched the Parent Awareness Program, Understanding Why Your Child is Not Doing Well Academically. It is a series of 5 short videos that will help parents to understand how they can be a better support for their child, to understand what are the feelings a child could go through when the child is not performing well, what could be the challenges that are hampering the progress of the child, and what can the parent do to better support the child to improve. So all these are a part of this short video series, and in less than 20 minutes, you can help the parent to get a greater insight into all of this. So for that, you can become an influencer and make an impact. You could help the parents you know to understand and be a positive force in the child's progress. And this video series is one way of raising awareness among the parents about why their children are facing academic challenges and the role that parents could play. So to become an influencer, the link now is going to be shared in the chat box. What you have to do is when you click on the link, you will be directed to this page. And when you're directed to this page, you will come to the entire aspect of this program series. You will have the trailer, you will have the short 5 video series, and also you can share this program with your friends. So when you will be able to share this program with your friends in this tab option, you can copy the link for the program from here and paste it in the various sites where you would like to promote it. On the other hand, you can share it on various social media platforms like Facebook, or you could also share it via WhatsApp. So the moment you click on share it via WhatsApp, you'll be able and directed to the groups where you will be able to share with the people whom you want this link to be shared, and you can create a greater awareness. So the link is now being shared in the chat box. You can click on the link, explore about the video series, be a part of it, and also forward it ahead to the parents in your community so that they could be a better support to their own child. Also, you can join the influencer group by ability and stay connected. You can join the WhatsApp and the Facebook influencer groups to make a greater impact. The links of this group is also being shared in the chat box now. If you have enjoyed the knowledge sharing by Madam Geetha, please do pour in your valuable feedback. The feedback link is also going to be shared in the chat box. Do let us know your experience of the event so that we could improve it for you all. Now, without further ado, I would like to move on to the questions for today. Are you ready for the first question, Madam Geetha?
Yes, please.
Great. So we have a first question by Sumitra who wants to know that at what age can we introduce the concept of functional academics in children?
As I said, earlier when I first started out in this field, we would think that functional academics was, when they are more and more into the upper primary and pre-vocational stage, that's where we look at functionality. But over the years, we have, we know that children with special needs do have difficulties with generalizing what they are learning in their classroom situation into real life situation. It doesn't happen automatically. So therefore, whenever you're teaching any skill, and this is why I keep reiterating practically in all the workshops or webinars I've conducted, I always say this: do not wait until whatever age for functionality. Whatever skill you're teaching, um, whether you're teaching them alphabets, whether you're teaching them numbers, whether you're teaching them to count, money, time, whatever, reading, writing, whatever it is, bring a functional element into it. So, for example, even if for a child who is just learning how to write letters, the child is able to handle a pencil and write letters, I get them to immediately trace their name. Initially, they may not write it, they can trace it. So usually they're at the top of every worksheet, the name of the child or the date is provided and they have to trace along it. And while they trace it, I usually get them to say it. So, right there, the functionality has come. The child is not learning to write alphabets which have no meaning, but the child is realizing right there that the alphabets can be formed to make words, especially at least their name, and then it can be extrapolated onto words. So whichever skill you're teaching, always add a functional element to it. See how it can be made functional. And this is particularly true of children who have especially intellectual disability, or children on the spectrum who may have intellectual disability, because they do not generally, what they learn in one situation is not extrapolated onto other situations. So always bring out the functionality. And as I said, even when I was talking today, I was telling you, even if you're teaching numbers, ask them to count up how many shoes are there on the shoe rack. If you're teaching skip counting by its shoes, skip counting by twos, ask them to count up the pairs of shoes so you can skip count by twos. So bring a functional element into it, whatever skill it is you're teaching. So there is no age. Right from the word go, right from day one, it is always functional. It has to be functional.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for throwing light on the importance of making every concept functional in the child's life. Now we have a case-based question by Samina Agbani. She says that her son is 11 and is very afraid of math. How can she teach him and generate interest in abstract concepts like time and money?
As I said, use it, use games, use, jigsaw puzzles. You saw some of the activities I had mentioned in today's session, and if you go online also, there'll be plenty of resources, where you can use songs, games, hands-on activities, to introduce things, and then get the child to relax. A lot of times, children are anxious, especially if it is a subject that they're not very comfortable with, or they find it very difficult. So get the child to relax first, do some relaxation exercises, and then get started. Also, nowadays, a lot of research is coming in that if you do yoga or if you do cross lateral exercises, cross lateral means, if you use your hands or eyes or legs, bring it to midline and cross over. So, crossing over exercises helps not only relax, but it also helps activate, it stimulates the brain. A lot of the brain gym activities that we find, that are done, a lot of the yoga activities which are bilateral and can do crossover. All these crossover lateral exercises, brain gym exercises, helps trigger the brain and helps the brain receive information in a better way. Neuroscience research has shown that. So before you start something, especially if that math lesson is a bit stressful for the child, do some of these cross lateral exercises so that the child's brain is ready to receive better. Also do some, when you do these exercises, it will also relax the child. And then try to vary the activities you're giving. Don't do just, if you're doing a pencil paper activity, then do the same activity in a hands-on way. So try to vary the activities you're doing, and anything taught through songs, games, role play, all this will be much more appealing. It will take the fear out of a very academic setting. So try to do these things, and that should definitely help.
Using a multi-sensory approach will definitely help the child. First is to make the child comfortable and then start it off from there. Now we have a question from Rich Sharma. She wants to understand how long does it take approximately for a child to learn the time and money concepts?
Nothing can be said or predicted about that. Depends on each child, the level of challenges they have. Not every child will also learn these concepts. That's also something one has to understand. We take them through as much as possible on the time and money concepts. But as I said, not every child may acquire this. So, for example, not every child may understand reading time close to 5 minutes. So not every child may be able to transact money, but at least if they identify money, maybe some children can, they stagnate at that level. You take them through as much as possible, but again, there's no timeline. Some of them become adults by the time they reach, these skills. So it is a very, very fluid situation. And it depends on each child, the level of disability and challenges they have, and how strong their prerequisite math skills are. So if a child's counting level or number concept is not beyond 20 or 50, how much can you, there's a limit to how much of money, and but at least within that 20 and 50, if you can teach time and money, that will make the child more functional. So the ultimate goal is making the child as independent as possible within whatever potential they have.
So it is very child specific. It is how the child takes up depending on the challenges the child is going through. Now we have a question from Sushmita Paul. As a special ed teacher, if I have to keep certain resources handy to teach my children the concept of time and money easily, what would you recommend as resources?
If you look at the presentation today, there was this teaching clock that I mentioned. That is one. You can have little, actually, I get kids to make their own clocks using paper plates. So you can get kids to make these, or you can even buy these student clocks, small ones, which they can handle. Showed, and the one thing that I didn't show here is the rubber stamp one. You can actually get a rubber stamp clock made. So, you can stamp these onto empty white paper and create worksheets. So these kind of things, if you keep handy, that should be more than enough. For money, you can use, nowadays you get fake currency and fake notes. You get plastic fake currency and notes in the market, so you can buy those and you can use those. For initially, at least in the teaching stages, you can use those as your learning materials.
Thank you for sharing the resources. We'll take the last question for today. It is from Abdullahi Abdu. He states that as we all know that the concept of money is different from one country to another, do the techniques and strategies for teaching money be the same or they will differ from one country to another?
The techniques and strategies are basically the same. As I said, when you teach money, teach the currency and notes which are prevalent in your country or in the environment the child is living in. The only difference that can happen is how it is transacted. For example, if in a country like India, most of them are in denominations of tens, 20s. It's mostly in the tens realm, so it's much easier. Whereas if you think about, say US, they have cents, dime. They have different different um, terminologies used with different coins and how much the value is. So that becomes, that you have to teach accordingly. So those are the differences that might happen, but otherwise the strategies are basically the same. The specifics of the currency and the notes will determine what changes you need to bring about. So like, for example, I was working in Kuwait for a long time, and there you have dinars, the Kuwaiti dinar. So they have quarter dinar, half dinar, then one, and so on. So, you have to teach those concepts of half dinar and quarter dinar. And there it was, I mean, in India, 100 paise equals 1 rupee. So it's all, again, as I said, in hundreds. It's easier. Tens and hundreds are easier. Whereas there it was in thousand fills made 1 dinar. So that concept of 1,000 needs to come for the children. So those are the kind of changes that will happen. But other than that, the strategies that you use are basically the same. Use real life situations, multisensory. Start with currencies or notes which are more frequently used for purchases and transactions, and then go on to the higher ones. Start with the lowest that is used most, and then move on to the strategies don't change much. Only thing is, depending on what currency you're using, the terminology and the number, the exchange value from the coins to the currency, those things change. So that has to be taught accordingly.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for helping them understand the correlation of how they could teach it when the currencies are in different countries. And thank you so much for answering all the queries from our participants. And a big thank you for the participants for being so engaging as well as being there with us throughout. So before we end, I would like Geetha ma'am to share her words for the session.
It's been a good session. Thank you. And I'm receiving a lot of good feedback as well through the chat box. So it's heartening to know that whatever I have experienced, in my career, I've been able to share this. And thank you, Ability, for providing such a wonderful platform and with such a huge community of participants. And a big thank you to all the participants for contributing so much in the whatever little discussions we can have through a virtual platform. So once again, a big thank you to both Ability and as well as the community of participants. I did enjoy today's session. I hope it was useful and enjoyable to you as well.
Completely agree. I'm sure the participants would also agree with me that they've got a pool of strategies that they can now use to teach the concept of time and money, which usually felt difficult. Now, before I end, I would like to tell you all that the feedback link is being shared in the chat box. Do pour in your valuable feedback, as well as if you missed about the parent awareness program, the awareness program link is also being shared in the chat box. Do share it with your parent community and others who can benefit from it. And the other thing that I want to update you all is about the upcoming events. The links of the upcoming events will also be shared in the chat box. Please do go through it and book your slots. On the 9th of June, we have a session by Madam Geetha Gopi where she will be talking about how you can develop a personalized intervention plan for children with special needs or academic challenges. And on 30th June, it is by Mrs. Shivangi Maniar, how you can help parents understand why children face academic difficulties. And they will happen at 12:30 p.m. Nigeria time, 4:30 p.m. India time, and 7 p.m. Singapore and Philippines time. Do share the care and forward the links to others who can benefit from it. Until we all meet again, it's a big bye from Team Ability. Take care and stay safe.